What's up, guys? It's your boy Chaos, aka Still Not Famous, and today we're looking at a little bit of heroic action. What you can do as a Ret Paladin. You can see here parsing, in the 80s, 90s, things like that. So this is just a little bit of helpful tip of what you can do in Tuma Sigeris on heroic as a Ret Paladin. Here we go. Alright guys, so starting out with Goroth, we either want to be behind the boss or on the side of the boss, generally on one of his feet. This is to keep the boss from parrying us. Really, the only mechanic that we actually have to watch out for is the comment right here that we just move away. If there's not too many melee, you can kind of stay on the boss a little bit. That arrow is a shattering star, so don't stand in front of that and you'll be alright. We usually don't get shattering star as melee. I guess it's kind of RNG, but sometimes you will, and if you do, make sure you take it out and get it through some pillars so you don't wipe the raid. When Infernal Burning happens, you're going to have to LOS yourself, and when you do this, try to pick a pillar that is not going to despawn like that right there, because this is going to cause some real big healing problems for your heals, but we just healed through it, pulled it together and whatnot, but it is a big DPS loss having to run all the way back to the boss, so try to pick a pillar that's kind of close to the boss. Next up is Demonic Inquisition. Make sure that your group is doing DBM pulls and you're also getting that pre-pot off right there at about 1 second or 2 if your group kind of pulls a little bit early. Generally, the bosses are going to be together during the very first start of this phase, so what you want to do is position yourself in between both bosses so you're getting cleave on both of them at the same time. You're going to be running all of your burst and any trinkets that you would be using also. Make sure that you're not attacking the bosses during their Feral Squall or the Bone Storm because you'll get extra torment during that and you'll have to go inside. Melee during this fight should not ever have to go inside on Heroic. So when you go to switch targets on this fight, make sure that you always throw your judgment first. Your judgment must be up on target. This is going to be giving a boost to your Templar's Verdict and also your Divine Storm, which we will not be using Divine Storm in Heroic, but on Mythic difficulty you will be. Also for this fight, whenever you pop your cooldowns for the second time, you will also be using your secondary pot immediately with that, and you will be using Arcane Torrent offensively if you are not in the interrupt rotation. If all else fails though, use your Arcane Torrent for a interrupt. But remember that your Arcane Torrent does give you 1 free holy power, so that's a free move, I'm just saying. Of course, that only applies if you play the Master Race of Blood Elf. Yes, Master Race. Next up's Harjatan, and remember guys to get that pre-pot off the DBM pool and go ahead and just run cooldowns right off the start on this boss. We generally want to save Wake of the Ashes for the Ashbringer until the ads come out. Of course you see here I didn't, I'm not really trying to parse or anything. We were just in here messing around. And I did end up parsing, but still. If you feel like you're lacking DPS on this fight, you can move off to the side so you can't be parried or anything like that. And then when Unchecked Rage comes out, you just move right back in front of the boss, take it to the face, and then you can move off to the side, take care of the ads, whatever you need to do. But make sure you position yourself so you're hitting all of the ads and the boss all at the same time. If you get the water on you there, you just drop it off to the side so it's not messing with anybody. Get back on the boss and you can stay on the boss the entire time, moving to either side if you want. Just there again guys, remember it's mechanics over DPS, so make sure that you catch every one of those unchecked rages. Do not be off to the side if that goes off. And on this fight you can also use Arcane Torrent offensively so you can pull more DPS.
Never have an itchy ass, but their fingers always stink.
4,
Yeah, right? Oh,
3,
God.
2.
Next up is Mistress, and on this fight it's real AoE heavy, so make sure you keep that hammer up, you're spreading it around with zeal and everything, and you're just divine storming like crazy when those ads come out. Also, we're going to be trying to save Wake of Ashes for when the ads are coming out. The only mechanics that we actually have to watch out for on this boss is that we need to stand in the beam when it comes out for the Hydra shot, and don't stand and take the whale to the face. Other than that, just stay on the boss, stay on the ads. Don't stand in the little green goop that comes down on the ground because you'll be missing everything. Like right here, you got to move out of that so you can actually do damage. When the tornadoes come out, the tanky is going to move the boss and everything to position yourself in between the goop and the tornadoes that's out, so they're going to dissipate and we can still just stay on the boss. Just stay damage. It's a real heavy damage fight for Ret Paladin. Crashing wave is the whale that you got to watch out for. Just don't stand on it and take it to the face. Stay on the boss, spread your hammers around, and just divine storm like crazy. Next up, sisters, make sure you get that pre-pot. Always start with that hammer and just start doing work. Right before the eclipse, you want to run over, cleanse your debuff to reset it, and get back on the boss. Generally, I'll use a steed, but not in all occasions. This depends on if I'm running cooldowns or not, but when the incorporeal shot comes out, you do want to stand in the beam and make sure that you heal yourself if your healing bubble is not down, and you can divine storm a little bit for a little bit of off healing there if you need to help your healers out. When the owl comes out, it becomes your primary target and you want to focus it down before the next eclipse. That's usually what we do in our heroic anyways. But if your group finds that you don't have the damage necessary to bring down the hawk before the eclipse, make sure that you're back on the boss to get the bubble off of the boss during this eclipse. And during this eclipse, it's a lot easier to have the boss in the middle of the room. The glaive is going to be coming from the tiger, so watch where he's at. And it's kind of like a mini game. Just have your camera out all the way, and you can just move accordingly. You see, just move side to side. Strafing helps a lot, so you don't have to deal with a lot of things. And whenever you get that moonfire thing right there, you just want to go ahead and cleanse your stacks and get back on the boss. You just stay on the boss pretty much. Wherever the boss is, that's where you're going. Next up's Desolate Host, and there's a few different ways that you could play this. If you're down in Shadow like I am, the main priority is just put your hammer on the primary boss, spread it around with your zeal and things, and just divine storm like crazy and murder all of the adds. You don't want to be interrupting the screams while the corporeal side still has adds, because we need that to take away the debuff. But other than that, you'll use your Arcane Torrent pretty much offensively, and your interrupts will pretty much be non-existent unless all adds are down on the corporeal side. A cool thing that you can do on this fight is when Welling Souls comes out, there's nothing really that you can do down in Shadow, so click on one of the beacons, go to Corporeal, and start raping the boss and the adds on that side. Sometimes it's a little hard to get the adds and the boss all together, but the boss on Corporeal has a really large hitbox, and you can kind of turn to the side like I am here, and you can still hit all the adds and the boss. My main target is the boss right now, but I'm still hitting all the adds. You can also be under this boss or behind this boss, and you will not fall off the platform behind the boss. So you can stand in any of these locations, still hit the boss and all of the adds. And yes, they have their shield up, so they're not taking as much damage, but they're still taking damage, so that's still an increase. But guys, make sure that if you're going to try to attempt to swap back and forth, that after Welling Souls is completed, you do go back to the Shadow Realm, but do not touch anyone that's over on the Shadow Realm or you will do damage to them. And once you get back over, just main focus is the primary boss there, and then you're just spreading your dots and murdering the adds again. Dot being your hammer, of course, make sure that you're trying to get that onto every target so they're taking increased damage from your Divine Storm. And you can also increase your Divine Storm damage through relics and also the Crucible that's out now. When the phase transition and the new boss comes out, make sure that you stay on your old boss. You're still trying to cleave everything down, and right here I am still on my primary boss, but I'm facing all the adds and the secondary boss. And I'm just divine storming out to try and hit them while still hitting the primary boss. This will take a little bit of coordination and moving depending on if he's casting Doomed Sundering or Sundering Doom. Depending on which side you're in is which one that you want to stand in. This one I do not want to stand in, but the next one I will be standing in, so I will need to position myself to be able to stand inside of that ring that's under the boss while still focusing my primary boss until it's dead. And you don't have to be in the middle or anything. You can be on the edge like right here. I still got it and I'm still on my boss. Make sure that you stay on your boss. And remember that you don't have to worry about falling off of the back of the platform, so you have all of that area that's up under the boss also to play around with. Next up's Mate. Make sure you get your pre-pot still, and I'll run cooldowns at the very beginning of this fight. A lot of people don't. They want to save it till after the first blowback. But what I've found is that you can run your cooldowns through this first phase, and then after the blowback, you will not have that Avenging Wrath up again, but it will be ready for the next blowback after that. And when blowback happens, go ahead and pop your Divine Steed, cut across, and get on the inside ban. Now, we generally like to stack up and let our tanks control orbs. Your guild might do it a different way. A lot of people like to keep around 10 stacks. I found that stacks help, yes, but it's really not needed in heroic, honestly. But if you plan on parsing, then you are going to need those buffs. But always remember mechanics, guys. If anything changes, like if your color changes, make sure that you move your position to the other side of the boss where you're supposed to be stacking. And if the hammer of the opposite color hits, then you're going to have to watch your feet. There's going to be little circles pop up right there, the little gold circles. Don't stand in those like that guy did. Make sure that you don't try to finish your cast or anything. Just move out of it. It happens pretty fast. You shouldn't have to worry about bombs at all unless that you're randomly targeted with one, because you shouldn't get a bomb during this fight at all, ever, for no reason. For every blowback after the initial one, like I said, you will be running Avenging Wrath. For the next one, you'll be also running the pre-pot. Well, it'll be your secondary pot, but it's your pre-pot. You're just going to stack with your group, let the tanks grab the orbs, try to soak up as many orbs as you possibly can from the tanks getting them, and make sure that you're close enough to try to get that melee range so you can still do damage for the entire time that the orb phase is going on, and then afterwards also, because our Avenging Wrath has to ramp up with the spec that I'm running, so you want to get off as many Templar verdicts as possible. Divine Storm will also be ramping it up, but we will not be using Divine Storm during this fight. We will, however, be using Arcane Torrent very offensively. Every time it is off cooldown and you need a holy power, use it. If you do find yourself randomly targeted by a bomb, you didn't stand in anything or anything like that right there, you still have to deal with that. So move over to the side, keeping up your damage at all times, of course. Turn your back toward the direction you want to go and just run off the platform at about 1 second. DBM's a little bit off right now, but make sure it's at roughly 1 second. As long as your feet are off the platform, it will not damage the raid and you will still get knocked up. But make sure your back is facing the direction you wish to go, unless you want to go to the other side of the room. Next up's Avatar, and we're going to run cooldowns and pre-pot at the beginning still, because right after this first Unbound Chaos, we're going to Time Warp, and we'll already be ramped up to our maximum damage. Always remember to keep that hammer on your primary target at all times. The Touch of Sagaris is going to come out. You're going to have to worry about that. Our melee one is always the one closest to the boss, so you just step into it, take it, and then move back to your original location for the next Unbound Chaos, so you don't have to run it over tanks or try to dodge other people's Unbound Chaos, things like that. When Rupture Realities comes out, this is where I usually just kind of backpedal a little bit so I can still damage, and then pop Divine Steed so I can get away from him and get back in without losing too much time being off of the boss. For overlapping situations, make sure that you take Touch of Sagaris first because it has to be soaked, and then swap over to Maiden because we have the damage to go ahead and get that shield anyways. This is the only time that you will ever damage Maiden is when she is doing the cleansing protocol, and then you will swap back to Avatar because we want to push Avatar down to 25% before Maiden dies, and then we'll go into second phase. And when this happens, guys, your main objective is to just stay on the boss, do as much damage as possible while dodging the tornadoes, but also stacking inside the debuffs for the other players so you can soak them. And as a clutch move for this phase, if you do get the debuff on you and you have your bubble, you can solo soak. You can run out into the lava with it if you want to, or call over Discord or whatever voice program that you're using and tell everyone that you're going to solo soak it. And that will save a lot of people from taking the additional damage, getting blown around, the healers trying to keep them up, possibly getting hit by tornadoes, things like that. Mainly just dodge the tornadoes, stack and player debuffs, and this is a pretty easy fight if you keep your camera out at max range at least. Generally, you want to save that steed for the Rupture Reality part so you can get away from him and get back onto him as soon as possible to keep up the damage necessary to push him out and kill him during this phase. Alright, so that's a quick rundown on Tomb of Sagaris Heroic as a Ret Paladin. Please like, share, and subscribe. And also, guys, this was just a quick test video to test out my graphics card and whatnot, but let me know if you like it and whatnot. Shout out to Lan and Arissa for hooking me up with a new graphics card. There's a lot more to come. Let's go.